Yeah, so a way people might be familiar with this, a way they might have heard of it in popular culture is one of my favorite authors, Henry David Thoreau, and he wrote Walden. Is based on him living for 2 years in the woods, middle of the 19th century. Guy goes to live out in the woods outside of Concord, and anyway, he was kind of meditating and contemplating, and then he wrote Walden, and he said in there, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation.
Mm.
You know, quiet desperation. It's not spoken. It's not something we talk about, but it's in the background. And I feel like what he's saying there too, I feel like why that resonated with so many people, because I know that that line is spoken to a lot of people, is because it's part of the human experience that I think we don't acknowledge to ourselves. Maybe we aren't even aware of it in ourselves, even though it's there. We're just not articulating that, yeah, part of me feels despair, you know. Um, it's there, and I feel like it's part of when we're living in the ego. It sees itself as separate from life, and I feel like the despair is either coming from that or connected to that, because what our heart loves is, our heart loves life,
Mm.
and we want to be not just connected to it, but we don't want to feel separate from it. So there's a pain I feel in being separate from life,
Mm.
and seeing that way, which spiritual traditions would say that's ultimately not the true perception. That's not actually what's going on here. We're not actually separate from any of this, you know.
Mm.
But that's the way we're perceiving it, and then that perception leads us to feel a certain way about it emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah, that almost gets confusing there, like, because even with the Western, like, yeah, like we aren't actually separate. Eh, But
Mm-hmm.
on some degree, like there's a like the very legitimate experience of separate, even beyond a perception, right? Like when you say it's a
Mm.
perception, like I see like, oh yeah, we perceive our separateness, and then there's an emotional experience that comes with it, which I love what we're talking about, by the way, like despair following the experience of separation, and
Yeah.
this like mass quiet despair from this mass quiet experience of separation.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes like there's a lot of curiosity that comes in me of like what is happening there. I get that, like, yeah, okay, we could never really be separate, right? Like we can never really be separate because it is just one thing.
Yeah.
um but it also feels like deeper to me, and also more than just a perception. It feels like there's something, yeah, yeah, because it's like, yeah, we can perceive our separation, but
Mm-hmm.
also this playing ground, this like planet that we've been experiencing for 75,000 or longer years, as a human
Mm-hmm.
collective, is designed for us to experience separation. Like that was the design of
Mm.
this planet,
Mm.
for the energy that it's been emanating and vibrating at for 75,000 years plus.
Mm.
And so it's like, I don't know, maybe that's not the design. Maybe like, I wonder how inherent. I wonder how one and the same separation and despair really are. Like, is our planet, because of the way we've been experiencing separation,
Mm-hmm.
experiencing despair? Is it possible to have the experience of separation and not experience despair? I feel like you and I both have a level of feeling separate still.
Mm-hmm.
As connected as we feel, as connected as I feel to source and to my experience, there's still a level where I feel like, an individual,
Yeah.
separated from the collective of everything. And that doesn't mean that I have to feel despair. So I don't know.
Totally. I'm glad you used that word individual, because I think that where it gets really confusing is, well, there's a couple of points where it can get confusing. I think first we have to distinguish separation from individuality, because some spiritual traditions say, and spiritual teachers, and I agree with this view, uh, that we're not ultimately separate, but there's a level where we have individuality, so you and me, for example, just to use us as an example, make it more concrete and less abstract, is like we can be individuals and not experience ourselves as being separate from, this, or even from each other in a way, but the oneness and the connectivity and the individuality coexist. It's someone said, to be the one, the big one, and the one that you are, the unique one that you are at the same time, you know um and so you know that's how I feel about it, honestly. I'll just say that's how I feel. That's the way that it is, how it's meant to be too. We're supposed to
Yeah.
experience that.
I love that. Like
Yeah.
within the experience of individuality, there's also can be an experience of 100% connectivity,
Mm-hmm.
where I can
Yes.
experience myself as like fully 100% connected to source and fully 100% an individual aspect of source. Um, yeah.
Yes,
And
that's yeah.
yeah, 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 that, and so that's where individual is. So it makes me question then and go, okay, so is the experience of separation that's causing despair the separation from source and individuality? Like, is
Mm,
that the separation that we're talking about, that feels so isolating and depressing?
mm-hmm.
It's the separation from our source and the separation from who we are designed to be as a shining individual light.
Yeah, that's such a great question. And so I feel like I'll answer this from my point of view, my understanding right now, um, that though it can be confusing again, because I feel like the individuality and our perception of separation they're tied to each other. For the way that I think about it in my mind is that the individuality exists at the level of the soul. The soul is what's individual. It's an individualized expression of the one, you know and then the ego structure exists within the soul and perceives separation. So that can, in theory, that can fall away, or you can not perceive that separation for a while, and you're still a soul. You're still an individual, right?
Mm.
But the only reason, the ground, mm, yeah, go with that word. The only ground that we would have to think about ourselves being separate is because we experience individuality in the first place. You know, like
Mm.
if we,
Yeah, yeah,
like if we
that
were
makes
all
a lot of
just in
sense. Yeah.
this cosmic soup
We would
and
never we
everything
would
was
never
one.
reach a point of having the experience of separation.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like kind of subtracting the separation but retaining the individuality, because you are a soul, so you have to keep that. You can't. That's intrinsic to you, and you don't want to lose that. You know.
Well, and I love what you're saying too, because I feel like for me, what's happening is like we started off by talking about the correlation between despair and separation, and I'm just trying to get clear about like what
Mm,
really is this perception of what's really happening there. And I
yeah.
love how you said, like, the soul is the part of us that is an individual, and then
Yes.
the ego structure is within the soul,
Yes.
which is also a unique, personalized kind of individual platform for experience. But I
Hmm.
get that it's the ego structure that's feeling separate from soul.
That's
that's
right.
that's the separation. It's not even like soul feeling separate from source. I don't think soul can ever feel separate from source. It's so
Mm,
inherently connected. But the ego structure that we experience on this planet is what's perceiving itself as an ego structure separate from itself as its own divine soul, personality, individual that's fully connected to source. And so I think that that's really interesting, because then you talk about masses, and so really what this perception or experience of separation is really just um, the experience of being unaware that we are soul, that we are spirit, that we are more than the ego structure at hand.
mm,
So it's simply seeing thyself as ego structure, seeing thyself as body, seeing thyself as mind. You know what I mean? It's like it's simply separation is inherently comes from perceiving ourself as the body, mind, or ego.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And then,
it's
then we
a
experience separation.
yeah, it's a limited identification, because we're talking about what we identify with. And it's like you're saying, when you're unaware of deeper levels of yourself, more spiritual levels of yourself, then your tendency will be to identify with a more superficial level of yourself, and I feel like what's important for us to get onto as a collective is that most of the time we're living inside of the ego structure and perceiving from inside the ego structure. And so it's as if our whole life is taking place inside of or to the perception of our ego, and so when we lose something, it seems like a great loss because we don't know the abundance of our spirit,
Mm,
you know
yeah.
and we're clinging to things because we don't know our inner richness. The ego, it's always perceiving lack, the lack of things. um so yeah, and it's the one, like you said, it's the one experiencing the separation.
Yeah.
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 not
It's,
yeah, not the
yeah.
spirit.
It even like, even change that language. Like it's the one experience. It's the space from which separation is being experienced. All right. Because like,
Yeah.
what is the ego structure, but space? Like it's a space. It's
mm,
it's a container,
mm, mm.
for experience. And
Yeah.
within that container, when that container, I'm having this metaphor come through. I was seeing this like
Yeah.
pro tennis player, right? Like take a pro tennis player who knows they're a fucking pro tennis player. Like they know they're like one of the best tennis players in the entire world,
Right.
and they're just forced to play at like a fourth grade level every single day, and they're just kind of like,
mm.
hitting the like. I would imagine so much despair would come from that, because there's the understanding that there's
I
so
see.
much more greater than inside of the qualities and the skills of this tennis player. Like they know
Yeah.
they should be zipping around this court playing against somebody who's like equally matched, and yet they're sitting there kind of just doing the same stupid motion that they've already
Yeah.
perfected over and over and over again. um and I feel like that's kind of what it's like being a soul who has this ego structure that's experiencing itself,
Yeah.
without identifying as the soul. Like somewhere deep down, there's this knowing
Yeah.
that there is all this abundance.
It
Like you
is. It's a
said, there's all
knowing.
this. It's
Yeah.
a knowing that there's all this,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the despair is coming from. The despair is not coming from being an ego structure, because it's simply a space. It's simply a space. It's coming from experiencing the ego structure without acknowledging
Mm.
because there's a
Mm.
knowing, but without acknowledging that there's authentically something so much more to your own person, to your own depth. um
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, yeah, when that goes unacknowledged, then despair follows.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I love that metaphor, by the way. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks
it's
for that.
fun.
I saw a quote from, it was attributed to Rumi. I don't know if it was Rumi's actually, but the Sufi poet Rumi.
Yeah,
He said
I know him because of Wookiee foot.
is something, and I may not get the quote exactly right, but it's something like there's nothing more strange to see in the universe than a soul that's holding the key to its own liberation while imprisoned in a cell. It's something like that. So if you imagine someone imprisoned in a cell and they're holding the key, you
Mhm.
know they can just let themselves out anytime.
Yeah,
Yeah, the key's inside you. It's always been inside you. you know it's never not been inside you. It can only be there. And you can let yourself out anytime. um so and he says that's strange to see, which I find that really funny.
that it is really funny. Like just the simple, like, yeah, it's weird to see that. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's odd.
unusual. Yeah.
They're just holding the key there.
Yeah.
Don't they know? you know
What I love too, like in that key metaphor of holding the key it's like, it's not even holding the key to let yourself out.
Mhm.
It's like they put themselves in a cage that they're holding the key and locked the door to, you
Yeah.
know, and really all that needs to happen is unlock and let themselves in, right? Like, it's not even about letting themselves out of this cage. It's about letting themselves into the space, and then the space doesn't feel like a cage anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm, mm.
That's
Yeah.
what it's about. It's like everybody who feels unfree or trapped, or uh, I'm trapped by this material illusion. I feel so stuck in this material. Yeah, yada yada. It's like,
Right.
no, it's like you just haven't let enough of yourself in. You know, it's like, let more of
Yeah.
yourself in, and you'll feel free. You won't feel trapped.
I love that. And I want to jump off that and say, like, if we're not supposed to get out of this illusion, like this
No.
physical world, this is where we're supposed to be. We wanted to be here.
Yeah.
This is our playground. We're supposed to play here and have so much fun. It's ridiculous. But what sort of keeps us from having fun is those kind of thoughts, and believing in them, and seeing ourselves as separate from the playground.
Yeah. Seeing ourselves as separate from the playground. I love that, right? Because it's like, well, because, seriously, this is right where I'm at right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pretty much in my conscious, like, expansion, like, where I feel I'm learning and growing. It's right there. It's like, yeah, okay. The ego structure is a space. The idea is to let our soul into the space that is the ego structure. Fill that space with the soul,
Mm,
and then to realize that this playground, this planet, this environment we live in is a space. It's space,
mm-hmm.
and to fill that with our soul.
Mm,
And that's what it's about. It's about recognizing space and fill it. Recognize space and fill it. I mean, what does God do all freaking day? I mean, you know what I mean? It's just like, there's space and it's filled by
mm,
infinite intelligence, by source. There's space and it's filled. There's space and it's filled. And as we continue to grow into our more multidimensional, higher selves, that is our purpose. Our purpose is to fill space with our love and light, fill space with our unique, beautiful essence of love and light. That's the goal, you know. And
mm.
so I love that you said that, like, this is our playground. This is our
Yeah.
playground, because it is. This is our playground right here. You know, this is the space that we get to embody, that we get to
Yeah.
imbue ourselves into, our consciousness, our love. And it starts with imbuing our consciousness and love into our own ego structures, to
Yeah.
understand that that's our space that we're starting with. When
Yeah.
you can fill your ego structure and body with love and light, then the body and ego structure lets the love and light, the soul, emanate out into the
Mm-hmm.
environment that it inhabitates.
Mm-hmm.
And then we practice doing that on further and further reaches, until we're, like, in these human bodies, sending love and light out into, like, the furthest reaches of the cosmos, you know. Really.
Yeah. And what really stuck out at me at the end of what you were saying was, like, changing our relationship with the ego, or the ego structure, so much that we're not trying to get out of it, not trying to do something with it, but like we've talked about before, um, when it's like our soul wants to love it, our soul, our spirit, that part of us loves everything.
Mm,
That part of us loves everything. So it's
mm,
not gonna. And the ego structure, I feel like this is key to get. It's been so useful for us. It's helped us survive. It's what we we developed to help us survive so well. So, like, I'm very grateful for that part of me. I'm extremely grateful, and I just want to shower it with love. Thank you
mm,
for, like, helping me get to this point where I can mature beyond you and grow beyond you, and don't have to experience myself within the confines of your limitation. You know, but never for a minute am I going to think about getting rid of you, because I just want to bring you into my heart. That's what my soul would say. I just want to bring you into my heart. And that's how I know I'm coming from my soul, is when I have that loving, heart-centered approach. And if I don't have that, it's an indicator that I'm not coming from there. I'm coming from somewhere else.
whew. Oh, I feel so juiced up in that, Paul. Like, so in that love bubble. I love that. It's so sweet. Like, the sweetness and nectar of, yeah, again, the gratitude. Like, I just really love the gratitude. I feel so
Yeah.
grateful as well. Like, the amount of unique I don't think I don't think there's very many people that really understand how special it is to be able to experience the kind of density that we're experiencing at the levels of consciousness at which we're experiencing it. And that's due to our ego structure. Like that is the space that ego structure is giving us. Like that is the space it's gifting to us. Like that I sit here with a fucking like wooden table and chairs and a computer. Like I mean, it's just mind-boggling sometimes, and I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah.
I'm so incredibly grateful that I get to be here. I get to be here. I get to be in this slow, not moving,
Mm.
dense, quiet,
Mm-hmm.
powerful, strong, rock solid world. You know,
Yeah.
and I get to be here because of my ego structure. And my ego structure has taught me so much. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like how fun
Mm.
it is to like experience this radically different aspect of the self
Mm-hmm.
and learn to love it and imbue it with so much gratitude and love constantly. And then we get to do things like high five each other. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just like what are these bodies, you know? It's really
Yeah.
special. It's really special to be here. And that's why I'm appreciating your gratitude and love, because it's
Mm-hmm.
always a great reminder for me to I could be in 100% more gratitude than I typically am. And I'm often grateful, you know?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I really appreciate your point about how we can't operate in the physical world without the ego structure. It's so necessary. So you're seeing it as a gift to be able to be able to live here and move here and be here. I really appreciate that, and I also appreciate the perspective. Like I've heard some people say sometimes that you can see the ego structure as your teacher. You can see the ego as your teacher. You know, it's the way that it's shape shifting and changing. You know, it's like when you get more conscious, you know, and you get onto it, it's like, oh, I'm not that, and I step out of my thoughts, you know. Then it changes and it takes on a different form to kind of rope you back in, you know, and get you stuck in some more identification or suffering, you know, or drama or something, right? And then you like, oh wait, I see that, you know. And then what it does is changes again. And it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
I got you again. And so some people are like, it's your teacher, you
yeah.
know. See, it keeps changing so you can keep getting better, you know.
Yeah. It's also
And
like your
yeah,
video game.
yeah, it's like a game, like moving up those levels.
How often does awareness get to do that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. uh, So it's nice. It's like, you know, right now we're taking a perspective. We're choosing some way to see something, and then we're feeling what that perspective feels like with our heart. Like we create a perspective in our mind, and then in our heart we feel what that perspective feels like. You know, at least for me, what I feel is like the truer perspectives in our mind, they feel better in our hearts, generally
Yeah.
speaking. So if you want to get closer to truth, it's like find the perspectives that bring you love, find the perspectives that bring you joy, find the perspectives that bring you gratitude, you know, find the perspectives where you feel like I'm home, everything's okay, you know, find those, because those, your emotions are telling you that you're on the right track, you know, you're in alignment.
Yeah, find those moments that genuinely resonate,
Mm-hmm.
that move through you in a way that is um I imagine that there is, even in the, especially at this time and age, because I like to come, I'm kind of bringing it back to the collective, and most men quietly sit in despair.
Mm.
I feel like there is a point in time in our era where we are now experiencing, like there's, I don't, my sense, and I don't know, you know, I can't claim to know this at all because I'm not living in other people's shoes. But my sense is if you're living on this planet right now, you, you can't escape the resonance that there's something much deeper inside of you and inside of all of this.
Mm.
I just don't think you can escape that anymore.
Mm.
2020,
Mm.
you know what I mean? I feel like it's, I feel like we're in too real of a time now, like too transitioned of a time, you know,
Mm,
too like the planet is vibrating in such a way that no matter who you are and how much you're trying to avoid that you're a soul experiencing your experience as an ego structure, I think that there really is a a wave that is felt by everyone to
mm.
some or lesser degrees.
Yeah, yeah, because when things like what we're seeing now, in the collective, like the presidential election and the things that we've experienced together as a collective, 2020, COVID and the
Yeah.
measures and the hurricanes and the forest fires and the riots, the civil rights movement, the all of it. Um, it's stirring up deep things inside of us, deep darkness too.
Yeah.
That's being stirred up, brought to the surface, and we feel it, and we're all connected to each other. So we're also feeling each other's emotions about it, right?
Mm.
But at the same time that's being stirred up, it catalyzes something deeper to awaken, and I feel that what you said, like, yeah, at this point, that something deeper is wanting to come out more and more and more, because when things get intense, that's its summoning call.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm going to show up now. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah, it's like as things intensify, yeah, there's a summoning call for experience, for awareness,
Yeah.
and it's popping into everybody. I mean, there's probably like tens of thousands of people having profound awakenings every single day, you know,
Mm,
every single
mm,
day, profound awakenings, you know,
yeah. Yeah.
whether it's like the first experience of that or you know, I mean, how many awakenings have you had in your life? You know, how many awakenings would you say you've had?
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
a bunch, you know, a
Yeah.
whole bajillion.
I feel like it shows up differently for different people. They have a different way of talking about it to themselves, or like
Yeah,
different way of feeling it. Some people, it's just like it feels like something more. There's something more
exactly.
to this, and that's the first way it shows up. You know, or somebody else. Like actually, for me, when I started to tap into this, everything felt meaningless. You know, and
Mhm.
that was a darkness, but it was also my gateway, my portal.
Yeah.
Everything felt meaningless. Okay, so where is the meaning?
Hmm.
And yeah, that led me on a track. So it'll show up differently for different people. But yeah, if that's happening for you, it's happening for a lot of people. It may not sound like what's happening for you, as somebody else articulates their version of it,
Hmm.
but it's happening. Yeah.
I love that too. I love that, like, yeah, it happens different ways for different people all the
Mm-hmm.
time. And I think that, like, as we continue to progress as a society, um, the kind of popping into awareness is going to look probably less and less dramatic and less. I feel like it's been pretty damn dramatic for most people in the past, especially the generations before us. Like,
Yeah.
fucking sometimes, I mean, there's some moments seriously where, like, I know from my partner and uh and other friends too, like, there's moments of going through awareness, and they're that, like, indigo wave, you know what I mean? We're I don't know what we're considered or whatever, right? But like, there was generations before us. Me and Paul are both very young, and so there is generations before us that I feel like they're coming into awareness over and
Mm,
over and over again, was constantly like getting slapped in the face, you know what I mean? Like,
mm,
really hard, you know. I mean, you're talking more like psychic attack stuff, like, you know, real dark crap, like, sent their way
mm-hmm.
that catalyzes, you know, awareness. Um, and I just feel like it's been really, really hard for so long. You know, I think of people like Robin at the Light Center, who's this beautiful woman who's been running this Light Center for a spiritual retreat center for years,
Mm,
for like 25, 30 years, something like that. 25 years, 26 now. And just an extraordinary warrior. But it's like, I can't imagine, you know, she's probably, I don't know how old she is. She's probably in her 70s. But like how much she's had to go through to
yeah.
create the experience that she's created for herself and to create the service she's created for herself. It just wasn't easy back in the day, you know? And
Hmm.
my sense is that as we're in a lighter age of awareness will kind of be, I have a sense that it's more natural now. Like people are popping kind of into like real deep awareness points. There's
Mm.
still the pain, there's still heaviness, there's still trauma, there's still all of the healing, there's all of that stuff that's still
Oh yeah,
happening. But
yeah.
I think it's on a lighter platform where especially the younger ages, like the younger generations, those who are like teenagers right now, you know, stepping into young adulthood, yeah, I feel like it's a lot gentler. You know, I know my experience in comparison when I look at a lot of my older friends, it seems like my
Hmm.
experience has been a lot gentler. You know, so
Mm.
I can only imagine that like those younger and younger and younger than me, it's just going to be more and more gentler. You know, as
Hmm.
time goes on. So like when we're in
Yeah.
2030, you know, 10-year-olds will just be turning into Christ or whatever. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And just to kind of reflect that back to you're saying to have to go through less hardship to become conscious and
Yes.
aware and awake to the spiritual nature of life, of what this is. Yeah. I
Yeah.
hope so. I hope you're right.
I hope I am too. I hope I am too.
That would be nice.
It would make sense, wouldn't it? It would make
No,
sense, I think.
I do feel that too. Yeah, I do feel that. Yeah, I feel like um, we've been like lightning
Mhm.
the, releasing layers. I've been thinking about the onion lately. You know that
Yeah.
the onion, like we all have our own onion,
Yeah.
and we peel off those layers and we get to a lighter version of that onion, and then we experience more love and all that. But we also have a collective onion, with collective layers that maybe we've been peeling those collective layers over time, and now our collective onion is lighter.
Yeah.
And so, if we have a lighter collective onion, then maybe people have a better chance now of not going through so much hardship and
Yeah.
difficulty and challenge before they kind of wake up.
I love this. Like I'm in this idea of this onion, right? Because like when you peel the layer back, you like cry a bunch. You know what I mean? Because it's an onion. Like
That's why it's
cry.
such a good metaphor.
It's
Yeah.
such a good word for it. Yeah. Then you peel another one, you're like cry, and you know what I mean, even harder because it's more intense.
Mm.
Yeah, it's funny, but yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, our collective has an onion too, and we're peeling back these layers. We're creating space. Like we're we're truly, you know, I feel very strongly because like I feel very fortunate to for those who don't know, I'm 23, and I've been very much on this path since like it's crazy. It's only been 3 years or whatever, but like 19, 20. 20 is really when I started meeting a lot more people in like the spiritual community. And I've been very grateful and very fortunate to meet a lot of people in the spiritual community much older than me. You know, I didn't have some like young hippie community to like go be with all the young like awakeners or whatever, right? Like, no, I was like right there with the powerful soldiers, like the spiritual warriors. You know what I mean? It was a different energy. It is a different energy for those generations. You know, it still is. And so I'm so grateful that so many of my friends are from generations before me, and I really feel where they've paved the path for me. You know, when I'm experiencing with them, I really get this like, wow, yeah, I get you guys really paved the path. I
Mm.
get because of the work that you all have been doing for 40, 30, 20 years, whatever. It's that I
Yeah.
really feel that like my life has been able to be lighter because of the work that you guys have done on the planet, that these generations have done.
Yeah, agreed. I can almost feel their journeys when you talk about it, yeah. And I'm grateful again, like I'm grateful
I'm
for
so
that because,
grateful. Yeah.
I think they all, um, I don't know what to call that group of souls, but I feel like they all had their own unique, beautiful journeys of,
Yes.
call it anchoring the light,
Yes.
or holding space for those who are to come, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you to them, and they're still around, so I
And
might
they're
go
still
thank
around.
them in person later.
And thank them in person later. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's wonderful. We went to this. I'm in Hawaii right now, and we went to this music gathering, and it was like all of these. I showed up, and I didn't expect to be like the youngest one there. You know what I mean? I don't know why I didn't. I just did it. There was a lot of young people in the area we were staying in, so I didn't expect it. But I showed up and, and it's like just a bunch of that older generation, like hippies,
Yeah.
like Woodstock Day. You know what I mean? Like that was like they're all sitting there playing music. And I'm looking at these people and I go, man, these have been the people that have been anchoring peace. You know what I mean? Like anchoring
Yeah.
peace for
Yeah.
decades. They've just been
Yeah.
anchoring peace in such a traumatizing, like ridiculously unpeaceful time. You know, it's like
Mhm.
these have been the guys that have been deliberate and disciplined to like constantly come back to love, even when the world seems like a fucking shithole over and over and over and over again. You know what I mean? In their
Mhm.
eyes, like
Yeah.
it's taking so long. Like I feel like for our generation, we really get to see a lot popping off. Like in our world, there's a lot of good stuff happening. You know, I know there's all the
Hmm.
whatever that's happening, but I feel
Yeah.
like we're seeing this wave of healthier foods. We're seeing this wave of like more consciousness, more spiritual teachings, more accessible. We have like YouTube, you know what I mean? And there's so much love like right here at
Totally.
our fingertips. It's like
Totally, man.
they went through decades and decades of seeing crap, and they still
Hmm.
did the work to hold down love and to hold down peace and love and light. You know, it's like, wow, I'm so inspired. You know, and I say all this to say like we're whoever you are right now, wherever you are in your spiritual journey, we are paving the way for those to come before to come. You know, we are paving the
Yeah.
way for those to come. So in the next 10 years, the next 20 years, everything that happens on the planet, everything that awakens and alivens here is because of the work that we're doing today, the work that we're
Hmm.
doing right here, right
Mm.
now. And I think it's so important to not forget the kind of impact we're actually making, the impact that is lasts forever, lasts forever.
Yeah. I love that, Jimmy. I feel like that feels to me like it's bringing us to kind of a close, but it's such a miraculous, mysterious, beautiful way that life works, in which, we're doing things but not seeing the full effects of what we're doing, and it's what we're doing is rippling out, um, but we may only see the first few layers of that ripple, not the far reaches when it really gets to the far side of the pond, and yet it does.
Yeah. I loved that. That was so sweet. Do not see the far reaches, but of the ripples in the pond. But yet it does get to the other side of the pond. I really love that. Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been great. And yeah, I know
Yeah.
I just went on like a really long rant on how much work the generations before us have done. I think it's
That's
important.
great.
But yeah, that to finalize that as a core, that's so beautiful. That
Yeah.
really everything we do has a ripple effect.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
every moment that we love ourselves deeper ripples
Yeah.
into this entire world and creates more space. You know, every
Yeah.
moment that I or you or anyone listening loves, just loves,
Yeah.
there's more space for everyone else to love.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you going to come from your ego structure? Or are you going to come from your heart and your soul, your spirit? Are you going to choose those deeper aspects of yourself and bring forward life from there, to
Mm.
share with everyone?
Wow. Well, thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Jimmy.
This has been an extraordinary Inform episode. I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, this has been great.
Yeah. And
Thanks, everybody.
thanks, everybody. Blessings. Namaste.